Trade Machine. We got another week with our 3-team tease of the week that hit, and we're going to take a look at who we're buying and selling in the sports card world. Welcome to Two-Way Takes. Welcome, everybody, to Two-Way Takes. We're coming to you live here with episode number 15. It is the NFL Trade Deadline edition. We got the Trade Machine all fired up here and ready to go. We're going to be talking some football. We're going to be talking a little bit of some more lines that we love. We're 2-0 on the 3-team tease of the week. Very excited about that. Hopefully, you guys are betting with us, making lots of money. But we're going to take a pretty deep dive into a few different teams, some trades that we'd like to see, some trades that we think would make sense to look out for coming up on the trade deadline. We're approaching the midway point in the season, so it's kind of starting to become some do or die scenarios here for a lot of different teams that might be a piece away, might be a couple pieces away, who got to determine whether they have to buy or sell before the deadline comes. So should be a really interesting week. I am joined right now by producer Mitch. Producer Mitch, how you feeling tonight?
I am feeling great. Feeling like you need to play responsibly. If you or somebody you know have a gambling problem, please call the Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-877-9-GAMBLE, sponsored by the Rhode Island Lottery. Available 24 hours a day to listen, help, and provide information.
We're hitting that. We're hitting the disclaimer all night long. All night long. Ain't no one slapping.
And
no one's
tell
slapping.
them why real quick. Give them a little preview.
No one's slapping a lawsuit on this beautiful face. That's all I'm saying. Anywho, let's dive right into it. We're going to get going with the NFL trade deadline. Deadline is next Tuesday at 4 p.m. So this is going to be the last week slate of games before the deadline hits. There's a lot of teams that are sort of in a little bit of a state of flux, whether they're going to buy at the deadline, whether they're going to sell. So we thought we'd take a little moment here, go through a few different teams, kind of take a look at what they might need to put them over the top, what they might need to make them a little bit more of a contender. So we're going to kick things off. We're going to start off in the NFC with the preseason Super Bowl favorites, and still chugging on along, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Bucs desperately need help in the secondary right now. They got Sean Murphy-Bunting down. They try to bring in Richard Sherman. Just decimated at that position right now. So that's got to be priority number one. If you're Bruce Arians, if you're even Brady, there's a litany of weapons all across on the offensive side of the ball between Brady, Evans, Godwin, Gronk when he's healthy. The stable of running backs that they have there have been productive. Fournette's been good. Even Gio Bernard has actually looked, pretty good in the situations that he's been called upon. So offensively, there's really just leave that engine alone. Just let them keep chugging along. Defensively, it's really, really tough. You saw with Dallas in week 1, very, very tough to be convinced by that secondary unit. Some names that just jump off the page right away. This team is obviously, it's no secret that this team is operating in a short window, trying to maximize Tom Brady's final years in the league, trying to squeeze the last of the greatness out of that Tom Brady juice box. So some names that jump off the page. You got Xavier Howard over in Miami, who would be a very expensive, would be pricey. They're already pseudo-mortgaging the future anyway in Tampa Bay, so he's a name that pops right out the page. Another name that comes right off the page, guy like Marcus May in New York. I mean, he tried to fill in he came in, took the spot of Jamal Adams over at safety. He is a guy in the secondary that really he's very effective in coverage. He can come up, he can play the run. He's very good in different blitz packages. I mean, he's kind of like a little bit of a hidden gem in New York right now because the Jets in general. But he's a guy that I think would be really intriguing, and I think the price tag would be substantially less than someone like a Xavier Howard. Howard, you're probably looking at a high draft pick. I don't really think they're trying to shake anything up player personnel-wise, so you have to think that Tampa's looking to deal draft capital if they are going to move anything, if they are going to make a move. You got to believe they are, man. I mean, you don't know how long Sean Murphy-Bunting is going to be out. you can't rely on Richard Sherman, back to just the fact that they went out and, basically started him after 4 or 5 days of practice goes to show you what kind of a situation they're in. But it wouldn't be all that shocking to see them try to make a play for Howard, out of Miami. He wants out of Miami. I believe he's in a contract year. And then the kind of sleeper here, the third cornerback out of Denver, Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller, he's got a little bit of a bigger contract. He's been bumped back in favor of Pat Surtain, who's the rookie who's actually looked pretty good for Denver this year. He is rumored to be available. I think he definitely could be an option for Tampa Bay. Really any one of those three. To be honest, if I'm Tampa, I'm looking at Marcus May. I do think he's going to be a smaller price tag than someone like Howard, probably around the same range as Kyle Fuller, but Kyle Fuller brings that inflated contract with him. He has been a little bit disgruntled over in Denver, so I think Marcus May would be a really good fit. He's the guy that I'm circling for Tampa, but regardless, I think they definitely got to find some secondary help. The old adage of offense wins games, defense wins championships. I mean, they don't say it for nothing. If you come out and you can score 25, 30 points a game, but your defense, you're getting cooked for 35 on the other end, doesn't really matter. So, got to assume that Tampa's going to be in the mix. I think they'll be looking for some defensive back help for sure.
I almost want to see them chase after Zach Cunningham.
After Cunningham? I mean, you can probably scoop it. And the thing with Houston is they might be coy enough right now to know. I mean, the Deshaun Watson thing is completely up in the air. So obviously, Deshaun Watson is the quote, prize, the talisman of the trade deadline right now. But it goes without saying, the off-field issues are kind of why we didn't lead with him. He's got the off-field legal issues with all the different. Sexual assault scandals and all that stuff that's going on. So until those legal issues are resolved, I mean, we saw it with Carolina and the Dolphins. Teams are not going to touch him without knowing that the legal matters off the field are under control. No team's going to touch him. You know what I mean? No team's going to touch him.
I think that could be said about Marcus May too, though. No, isn't he in some trouble with like a DUI thing or?
Dude, that's slap on the wrist territory. Comparatively speaking, the NFL has a terrible longevity with domestic abuse and domestic assaults, just domestic issues amongst their players. DUI. I mean, you look at you could end the discussion at Josh Gordon. How many drug-related charges, drug-related suspensions, or substance abuse suspensions, that's a mouthful to say, has Josh Gordon had? And that motherfucker gets reinstated all the time. You know what I mean? So I think May, I actually did not know that about May. He just seems to be a candidate that they could kind of pluck from the Jets, who are going to have to rebuild. Houston, it could be interesting. Because depending on if they get the chance to unload Deshaun or not, might actually be, the telltale sign of whether they're unloading the entire roster and just looking for a huge rebuild. I mean, they did just move Mark Ingram. I know it's not a huge piece by any means, but did just move Mark Ingram back to New Orleans, which is great. Handcuffed my boy Alvin Kamara in my fantasy league. It's very nice. It'll be interesting. I do anticipate Tampa to make a move on the secondary end of things for sure. That front seven is, pretty stout as can be. So I do see them trying to make a move in the secondary. Next team down that I think really needs to make a move. I don't know if they definitely will, but I think they'd be, it'd be a disservice to them if they didn't, is the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens are sitting with $2.4 million in cap space. Not a ton. Some needs I think you could identify with them would probably be more on the offensive side of the ball, particularly at the running back position. Obviously they've been decimated, absolutely decimated with injuries to their running backs. So, right off the page, the player that pops to me right off the page is Melvin Gordon in Denver. I really think Denver would be more apt to move him, knowing that they have Javonte in the backfield as well, who's been in a timeshare with Melvin Gordon all year. I think they'd be willing to part with Melvin Gordon, and I think Gordon is the type of runner where he can be efficient in the short passing game. We saw he had a lot of receptions when he was playing for the Chargers. He's the type of guy that doesn't need the ball all the time. As we see, he can work in a timeshare because Lamar is still going to scramble. Lamar is still going to put up, 30 to 60 yards on his own, which can be good because now you can spell Gordon. That can be kind of like the spell for Gordon, but you could still use him as a receiving back, swing him out wide, work him with Hollywood Brown. So I think there's some options there. Another option, this one's a little more of a stretch play for Baltimore, would be Allen Robinson from the Bears. I think Allen Robinson is kind of a spicy little pickup, and I think he would work great alongside Hollywood Brown. Now, there would be some cap issues here. The Bears have negative $6.4 million in cap, so they definitely would be better served to move some of that cap space. And Robinson, he's a distressed asset. You know what I mean? I think those types of he wants out of Chicago. I don't think he wants to stick around and go through the development of Justin Fields and kind of that offensive line is horrible. There's no running game there, so I think it's like a reclamation type project. If Allen Robinson were to get dealt, and we'll talk about him a little more in the next slide or the next team anyway, but. I think he'd be an interesting fit with Baltimore. You have that kind of home run threat in Hollywood Brown, and Robinson is a solid receiver. He's a solid route runner, good possession receiver, big target, the type of guy that, between him, Mark Andrews, and Hollywood Brown, I think that is enough of a complement of weapons for Lamar to sort of double down on his athleticism with and be like, okay, you've got weapons across the field. You know what I mean? You can use your legs to run. I think that's enough of a complement, enough of a spread of weapons to let Lamar sit back there and cook. I really do. Now, should they go after him? I don't know. Obviously, Hollywood Brown's having a really nice breakout year. The type of year that we anticipated maybe would have came last year, the year before. So he is looking good. He is looking like a really dynamic, deep threat. He's had some injury issues in the past, like here and there. So I'm not 100% sure if they'll go after Robinson, but I think that'd be a cool fit. I think that'd be a really cool fit. Maybe a little more of a want than a need, for sure. But I think he does make that offense a little more dynamic. I think you have to be looking at a wide receiver or running back. Another guy that you could look at if you're the Ravens, who just debuted last week from Cleveland, D'Ernest Johnson. Third string running back on the depth chart, behind Kareem Hunt, behind Nick Chubb. So, Kareem Hunt's on the IR right now, so maybe Cleveland's a little less apt to let him go than what they would have been 2-3 weeks ago. And Chubb's usually banged up a little bit too. But depending on the price, D'Ernest Johnson last week, 22 carries, 146 yards, and a touchdown. And look good. And look, I actually watched that game to watch Johnson. He's a rookie running back. The only thing, the biggest question there is going to be what the price tag is that Cleveland's going to be asking. So, but he would be another guy to kind of throw into the ring. Marlon Mack in Indianapolis. I know he's been, Indy has Nyheim Hines to back up Jonathan Taylor. Mack's sort of been on and off. Had that terrible season-ending Achilles injury last year. But again, he's a proven runner. He can tote the rock. He can catch it. I think any one of those guys. I think D'Ernest Johnson or Marlon Mack. I could honestly see one of them coming over for a mid-round pick. Maybe a fourth-round pick or something. If you're going after Mack, fourth, fifth-round pick, something like that. Maybe even a sixth, depending on how attached Indianapolis is to it. But with Taylor and Hines there, certainly he's probably an expendable asset. So I think any of those would probably be a pretty good upgrade or a pretty good addition to a Ravens team that is really in a dogfight in the AFC North. Cincinnati looks really, really good. They got a big game coming up this week. So the dogfight in the AFC North, man, you can never really sleep on the Steelers. It's gonna be interesting to see them coming off the bye against Cincy this week. But so Baltimore definitely a team I'm watching for sure come Tuesday at 4 p.m. Next team on the list that we're looking at, it is none other than our own New England Patriots. Now, people may scoff, they may laugh, they may think what they want, but if you're the Patriots, okay, if you're Bobby Kraft, if you're Bill Belichick at the deadline, you are buyers. You are buyers right now at the deadline. I don't care if this team is 3-4 and 2 of those 3 wins came against the Jets. I don't care. You're a buyer at the deadline because this team is a small handful of plays from honestly being 5-2 or 6-1. They really are. They really are. The Damian Harris fumble, against Miami, couple bad play breaks don't go their way. I mean, they gave the Cowboys a hell of a game. Like, this team is a lot better. I think maybe not a lot better. They are better. They're better than the record shows. Like, this should be a 500 plus football team. It should be. This team, the quality that's on this team, of the players, the quality of the team as a whole is better than 3-4. So I think they got to buy at the deadline. And one of the biggest things I think you need to do is you need to go get another weapon for Mac Jones. I think, needing a big, wide receiver target or some help in the secondary, I think it's sort of 1A and 1B. So they have $9.9 million worth of cap space. And I know cap space is, kind of scoffed upon because you can finagle just about any contract these days to make it work. And there's fake money for the most part. But nevertheless, still helps to have some space there, particularly from the Stephen Gilmore trade. So some guys that I think they really should target. Allen Robinson is a guy. Allen Robinson, I think for them not to pick up the phone and call the Bears and see if they can bring in a guy like Allen Robinson, I think is a mistake. Likewise, same exact thing with Kyle Fuller. The only thing that I think would be a problem with Kyle Fuller, and I was actually thinking about this earlier, is he's got a bit of a beefed up contract. So if you bring him in amidst, I think it's J.C. Jackson, in the middle of trying to negotiate a bigger deal, that might ruffle the feathers a little wrong, locker room chemistry wise. So that I could kind of see that as being one of the deterrents to bringing in someone like Fuller. But even, to go back to Cleveland, you look at a guy like Greedy Williams, right? So Cleveland is very deep at cornerback. They have a very deep secondary, and you have Greedy Williams, who was a second-round pick a couple years ago, could probably be had for a mid to high draft pick. I mean, this kind of situation, you're pretty much looking to give up draft capital. Another situation that you could kind of dangle out there is you have Nikhil Harry. Nikhil Harry, who requested a trade earlier on in the year in August, during training camp before the season started. That's another one. That's a distressed asset that other teams may look at as like a reclamation project. Guy's not going to play. He's not going to play. He's seen, a total of maybe 10 snaps for New England this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, what is it, number 4 behind Jacoby Myers and Aguilar in a run first offense.
He's getting nothing. I mean,
and he's fresh off the IR. It's
yeah.
Really
so
bad.
between not being able to be healthy enough to get on the field, and just seemingly, I mean, he played one drive in that Dallas game and ran the wrong route. Mac Jones ended up overthrowing and throwing the ball out of bounds. So, it may just be a case where he can't pick up the offense, coupled with the fact that he's been banged up. So, I mean, I'm sure there's teams in the league, and not for nothing, Cleveland, with the injuries that they've had to deal with all year, between Odell Beckham, between the injuries to their running backs, they might be the type of team that will take a chance. I mean, he's 6'4", 230 or so, 230 or 220 or something like that. He's a big boy, a very, very big boy, has good physical tools. So maybe, he goes to Cleveland. There's a little more of a simplified passing tree there. He can kind of find a rapport with Baker Mayfield. I don't know. And so maybe maybe you move him and a mid-round pick for someone like a Greedy Williams to come in, bolster the defensive end. Another team that was popping up, when I was reading through a few different scenarios earlier, Brandon Ayuk over in San Francisco. So he's a guy who's kind of fallen out of favor in San Fran with Kyle Shanahan. And another potential scenario where he's got upside. He's very young. I think he's younger. Did he come out the same year? I can't remember if he came out the same year as Nikhil Harry. But I mean, you figure he's got to be an upgrade. He's definitely an upgrade. He's a different type of receiver than what Harry is. I think he could come here, provide a little bit of a spark. He's more of a NFL ready-made, open him, let him out of the box, and kind of let him go type player. He's shown really nice flashes out in San Francisco in that offense. So I think, working him with McDaniels, I think he'd be able to, come in. It's an option. You know what I mean? He's another option that, maybe you move Harry and, a fifth or sixth rounder or something. I don't know what the asking price is going to be out in San Fran. I mean, they got Deebo Samuel that they're pretty happy with. But either way, I think some of those targets, New England's got to make a move. They got to be buyers. You look at the offseason that they put together, all that spending on the tight ends, on both sides of the balls, even bringing in Judon and all that. I think you have to make a move at the deadline. To not be a buyer at the deadline after the type of offseason that they had, the type of spending they did in the offseason, and really where you are. I mean, the eyeball test will tell you, anyone who's watched the Patriots know that they're better than a 3-4 football team, and they can still contend in the AFC for a playoff spot. So I think to not be buyers at the deadline is a big, big mistake. One real dark horse, and this is more of a want than a need, but very, very dark horse type play that could be in play if he's available for a steal would be interior lineman Brandon Scherf. And I know some people are probably going to be like, who the fuck is Brandon Scherf? Interior top lineman over in Washington. Washington's in total disarray. Okay, Scherf's been back and forth dealing with some injury issues, and it's probably a little more of, what the fuck am I doing in Washington? Wants to get out. But Pro Bowl caliber lineman, the Pats, I mean, you see like Isaiah Wynn is getting banged up. The Pats can always need some fresh linemen. He's been franchise tagged the last 2 years from Washington. Dark horse, kind of like deep cut type scenario where maybe if they can finagle something and steal him off Washington, again, another distressed asset type situation. Wouldn't even hate that, to be honest with you. Add a little more depth, add a Pro Bowl caliber lineman onto that line and protect Mack. Just a little extra something, but would love to see them make a move for someone like Nyuk, some wide receiver depth, some cornerback depth, and you got to get Nikhil Harry out. You got to get him out. Guy's useless for us, and I mean his trade value is never really never going to go up unless we're playing him. So I think the Pats got to be buyers and sellers and ship off Harry if they can, get whatever they can for him.
I think that going for the offensive line moves are very nice right now. I think that's probably their weakest point. And I mean, another kind of dark horse suggestion would be Kobe Ford from the Bills. I don't know how likely an interdivision trade would be right now.
I was just gonna say, yeah,
it's tough, but I mean, he's a second rounder from 2019. He's a solid lineman. I think he would be a good pickup in that same vein, though it's pretty unlikely to happen, unfortunately.
It's any other year, maybe, but given that the Bills are so hot right now, and we'll see how they look this week again. I mean, if I'm Buffalo, I love that team. I'm riding that team all the way. Everything seems to be clicking. Maybe you could use a little bit more help in the run game. Singletary hasn't looked great, but Zach Moss has looked pretty efficient. But you don't really need it because, again, Josh Allen supplements the run game for them a lot too. And then you have Diggs. Manny Sanders has been efficient since he got there. You still have Cole Beasley out in Buffalo as well. So they've got plenty of weapons. That defense usually is pretty stout unless they're playing Derrick Henry, which, you can't really blame him, I guess. So yeah, it'd be a stunner to see Buffalo kind of shake things up at all, let alone shake things up with a division rival. All right, we're gonna move to our last team here, and this is a little bit of a stretch scenario, but we're gonna go to the Green Bay Packers. We're gonna go back to the NFC. We're actually playing tonight, playing right now against Arizona. Desperately, and I cannot emphasize this enough, desperately thin at the wide receiver position. Even though obviously, Adams and Lazard, both on the COVID list right now, both on COVID IR, both will be back. Obviously, these are non-physical injuries. It's the COVID list. But when you look at this team's depth chart, right, and you look at the weapons surrounding Aaron Rodgers, right, you take Devontae Adams out of that offense. Randall Cobb is their number one receiver tonight. Randall Cobb hasn't been a number one receiver for 5+ years in the league. It's wild. So you're literally relying on Randall Cobb and Aquinius St. Brown tonight, and maybe Tanyan at tight end. Because if I'm Arizona tonight, and I haven't watched any of the game, I haven't checked up on any of the game. If I'm Arizona, I'm loading 8-9 guys into the box, telling Aaron Jones to fuck off. He is not beating us tonight. And making Aquinius St. Brown, no Marquez Valdez-Scantling, no MVS tonight. I'm making Aaron Rodgers beat you with his best friend Randall Cobb. It's a real thin position and a point of weakness for them. Now, they're dealing with, obviously, that looming shadow of, is Rodgers going to stay? Is he going to go? You had the whole soap opera in the offseason. I think you really do need to give him a toy, something to really kind of bump them over the edge. Because I'll be honest, I'm not sold on the Packers as a whole. I'm really not. I'm sold on Rodgers. I love Rodgers, but the guy can only do so much. I like Aaron Jones in the backfield, but he's a little bit of a sporadic back. He's very streaky if you look at his his depth chart, as his numbers, his game logs year over year, can be a very streaky back, very, feast or famine type back. I'm just going to say it would probably cost a little bit, but given that the Packers are probably playing with house money in terms of how much longer they can retain Aaron Rodgers before the whole lid pops off that situation, maybe you go out and you call up Cleveland and you inquire about Odell Beckham. Let's think about it for a sec. Again, we've been saying it all night so far. Distressed assets are the type of deals that at the trade deadline can turn into gold and really tip the scale for a potential contender. The Packers are a potential contender. They're a good football team. You got Aaron Rodgers, a healthy Aaron Rodgers at the helm, who says he's having the most fun of his life right now in Green Bay, whether that's a PR, his PR person kind of like telling him to say that. Good offensive line anchored by Bakhtiari. And if you can line up Devontae Adams and a healthy and motivated Odell Beckham, either in the slot or in that number 2 slot, and then you have the little complementary pieces, the Lazards, the MVSs, the Randall Cobbs, who Rodgers knows will just have a simple passing tree, simple routes to. If you can line up Adams and Odell Beckham and then Aaron Jones in the back and kind of give him some more space to run, that's a problem, man. That's a problem. That's not the type of spread of weapons anybody in the NFC wants to let Aaron Rodgers deal with. Now, again, it's tough because obviously Odell is in trade rumors seemingly every single year. So it's a bit kind of back and forth. Probably I'm sure plenty of teams are calling on Odell. I didn't even mention Odell Beckham in the Patriots bit just because I didn't want to go there because I've been imagining Odell Beckham in a Patriots uniform for the past 4 years, ever since he wanted out of New York. And it's just kind of, I don't know, it just hurts my soul. Imagine, because I love OBJ. I honestly do think he's more disgruntled than he is hurt every time, he's banged up in Cleveland and whatnot. But the guy wants to win. The guy wants to win. And if you put him with a proven winner in Aaron Rodgers alongside Devontae Adams, it's one of those scenarios, man. I really think he's the type of guy. I'll hark back to when Randy Moss came over to New England. A lot of people had kind of written off Randy Moss as, being done, being washed. When you come to an organization with a quality Hall of Fame quarterback who knows how to throw the ball, who knows how to work with you, and this is not a referendum against Baker Mayfield because I actually really like Baker too, but you go from, the Cleveland Browns organization led by Baker Mayfield, and then you go to the Packers with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. That's that can change a person. You know what I mean? That can definitely change someone. Odell says he wants to win. I really, really think that would be extra spicy to see Odell go to the Packers. That's a little more of a wish list than a reality type scenario, but it's a trade machine. So, you got to think Green Bay gives up maybe, second, third round pick, something like that. I can't imagine Cleveland's price being too low for a situation like that. I don't know, maybe there's a couple other depth guys that Green Bay would be willing to part with. But that's again that's kind of like wish list trade machine. But I think it'd be super spicy. See Odell and Devontae line up with Aaron Rodgers under center. So that's kind of where we're at. Those are the teams that we picked. I think beyond those teams, I don't know if there's a ton of other teams that really have a lot of glaring needs. I mean, you could point at the Chiefs, maybe on the defensive side of the ball. You could probably point at the Chiefs and be in the same scenario as far as a cornerback, similar to the Bucs. Offensively, I don't really think you need to add anything. I mean, Tyreek Hill's been kind of banged up. Maybe a running back for the Chiefs, maybe. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has shown he kind of can't handle that load. Not a ton of depth there. So you could even see a situation. Maybe Melvin Gordon. Maybe Melvin Gordon over to the Chiefs could be a possible scenario. He's a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield where Mahomes might be a little more comfortable with that kind of player. But that'll wrap up the trade machine talk. And with that, we're gonna segue over to my new favorite segment of this podcast because it is rolling along swimmingly right now. Let's get some lines. Let's go to Better Come Correct right now. Ooh, baby. So, for those of you who have been following and watching the betting and wagering segments and betting with us, if you've been betting in accordance with what the pod's been betting, you've been making a lot of money. You've been making some real good bread. And I just want to make a quick disclaimer. Hey, didn't I say last week you could have remortgaged your house on the 3-team tease of the week? Didn't I say that? And that shit hit. And it hit. Absolutely could have done.
I believe we also mentioned in that episode that this is not financial advice.
This is absolutely not financial advice. This is just good, fundamentally sound betting advice.
It's betting,
I guess.
yeah.
It's betting. It's not financial advice in the least. Once more, though, if you or someone you know have a gambling problem, call the gambling hotline at 1-877-9-GAMBLE, sponsored by the Rhode Island Lottery. All the current lines and odds are courtesy of our friends over at RI Sportsbook, available 24 hours a day to listen, help, and provide information. All right, so here we go.
With that being said, hold on one second. You can watch the video on demand in high definition quality over on YouTube if you want to see that line where you absolutely did say you can refinance your house on that. Two-way takes YouTube.
I mean, I said it. You could have bet the house on last week's 3-team tease of the week. We slammed it. Absolutely murdered that line. Was very, very happy. So 2-0. 2-0. Since we've been doing the 3-team tease of the week, we're 2-0 right now. So we're going to try to keep that rolling right now. Quick little disclaimer. This week it's a tougher week. This is a much tougher slate of games. Vegas knew. They were like, that Matty V. He came for us last week. He took our lunch money. We can't let it happen again. So a bit of a tougher slate. Some tougher matchups this week. But there's still a couple teams I think you can attack in the 3-team tease of the week. So this week, 3 teams, okay? I got, and again, as always, this is a level 6 teaser, so we're getting 6 points on the tease on each line, okay? First team, I love. Lock this one in. Cincinnati, minus 10.5 against the Jets. Tease that down to 4.5. Absolute lock. Just like the Pats last week, I think Joe Mixon goes absolutely apeshit. Joe Burrow's been an absolute stud, controlling ball games. New York has shown nothing on either side of the ball. Absolutely nothing. I think having Cincy cover 4.5 is an absolute cakewalk. Absolute cakewalk there. Line number 2. Tampa Bay is minus 5.5 with the tease. You're going to get them up to plus half a point. So you're basically it's a money line bet. I can't really see anybody, thinking, especially, New Orleans last week did not look great against Seattle. They outside of Alvin Kamara, you take Alvin Kamara out of the game, New Orleans isn't moving. They probably get a handful of first downs at best. They can't move the football without Alvin Kamara. I know they had a couple plays called back that went out to Marquez Callaway. They had a couple chunk plays to Callaway that ended up getting ruled back. But Jameis does not look comfortable enough in that pocket to move the football. The recipe is this, and Seattle started to do it in the second half of the game last week. All you have to do is bracket cover Alvin Kamara wherever he is. Load up the box. Bracket cover Kamara when they swing him out like a wide receiver, or when he gets out of the pocket, when he breaks out on those swing routes or slant routes. That just take away Kamara. Make anyone else. Make Traquan Smith. Make Callaway. Make anybody else on that team beat you besides Kamara. And that's it. That's it. The recipe for New Orleans is give the ball to Alvin and pray he breaks one off. And he did multiple times against Seattle. And they squeaked out of that one. So I can't see Tampa, with the litany of weapons. You have to think that they're going to be able to put up some points early, which is really a really bad sort of game environment for Kamara. Because, if the running game gets taken out, now you're pretty much becoming predictable. You're saying, hey, Jameis, come beat us. I don't see that as a very healthy game environment for New Orleans. I think it's a really bad matchup given what we've seen from them all year. I know they're coming off that win against Seattle, but I like Tampa in that game. And with the T's, getting them to plus half a point, I like that a lot. The last leg, and this one, it feels, I don't know why, it just feels slightly trappy, but I still really like it. The LA Rams against Houston, they're giving 14.5 points on the main line. T's down, you'll get them at minus 8.5. That shouldn't be a problem. There's a weird feeling in my head that LA has some fluky, just goofy goose egg game in them somewhere in the season, and I'm just praying it's not against Houston. I don't think it will be. Under normal circumstances, LA's got the best defense in the league. Houston has by far the worst offense in the league, so it's a matchup nightmare. So to think that LA can't put up, honestly, I truly think 17 points is enough to win this game if you're LA. I really, really do. I can't see. Maybe Houston gets a garbage. Maybe they, I can't. I honestly would bet Houston getting under 10 points in this game. Like I could easily see them getting 2 field goals in the first half and at best a garbage time touchdown. Or just kicking 3 field goals. Like I don't know how they're going to move the ball. I don't know how they're going to move the ball against that Rams defense. That Rams defense is absolutely electric. So 8.5. On paper, it just seems like this should be an absolute easy cover. But there's just something about LA that feels like there's gonna be a week they're just gonna lay an egg. I'm hoping it's not this week against Houston. I don't think this is just kind of the paranoia in me. I think, but I think this tease is a lock. I think it's a good one to win. It pays out plus 160, so you're getting almost 2-to-1 odds. You're getting 1.6x on it. $100 bet gets you a $160 win. I like it, man. I like it a lot. Now, if you're feeling frisky, this is gonna be just a little addition here. And this was almost the play instead of the Rams line. This was almost in, but the Rams just, common sense, the Rams should beat Houston by more than 8.5. But if you want to get a little frisky and you want to sprinkle in a little extra something and make it kind of your own little special season 4-team tease, you could take New England. You can go back to the well against New England, okay? And they're plus 5 against the Chargers. You can get them at plus 11 against LA. That's tasty, man. That's tasty because the Chargers got their fucking ass whooped against Baltimore. They will come out firing, but at the same time, not the best defense against the run. Damian Harris has been moving the rock really well. Belichick game plans for young quarterbacks very, very well. So you got to think he's going to try and disguise Herbert a little bit. Game environment wise, it doesn't feel like, to think that LA is going to cover 11 points, it feels like you think they're going to blow them out. New England's coming off a 50-point performance. I know it's against the Jets, but you got to think they're going to feel a little confident. Mac Jones, it's another week under his belt where he's feeling really good. They're controlling the football very well. They're protecting the football very well. So this particular game environment, I kind of see this as a 20-17, 21-14 type affair. Maybe 20, something around there where it could be a lot of ball possession, a lot of back and forth. I don't hate New England getting 11 points against the Chargers. If you sprinkle that in, pushes the line to plus 220, so now you're getting above 2-to-1 odds on it. Just something to think about. It's not part of the absolute lock. It's not 100% part of the 3-team tease, but it's there. It's like a little dipping sauce that you can take the 3-team tease nugget and just dunk it on into that Patriots plus 11 spicy sauce. Just a little extra something there. Other lines we love. Like I said, it was a tough slate this week. This one I actually really like here in the Titans-Colts game. Over under of 51 points. So I really, really like the under in that game. I really like the under. You look at what the Titans and Colts do best. Solid offensive lines, great running backs and running games. Derrick Henry is going to absolutely feast. Jonathan Taylor is going to get his touches. So you have two very run-heavy teams that love to get their running backs in the game. And what does that do? It keeps the clock moving. If you're constantly running the ball, picking up first downs, it limits the total number of possessions that each team is going to have. In turn, it's going to limit the total of number of potential points that each team is going to have. I looked at this line. 51 just seems like a lot. It just seems like a lot. Like, if you play out, the game flow and the game scenario in your head, I mean, let's say Tennessee takes, let's say they take a 21-3 lead. Okay, so now we're halfway there. Let's say it's 21-3, okay? It's just going to be the Derrick Henry show. After that, it's just going to be constant handoffs. And if the Colts keep sputtering out, the health of T.Y. Hilton has been a big question. You look at someone like Michael Pittman, who has been really good, but you're basically relying on Carson Wentz to really rally that team and chuck the ball, put up a lot of points, which he hasn't been phenomenal at this year. And you're probably still looking at a lot of checkdowns to Jonathan Taylor. He likes to catch the ball out of the backfield. I just feel like that's going to be a game with a lower amount of possessions, given the type of game flow and game environment that we're looking at. I don't see that overhitting. And there was a stat early on in the year. The over-unders above 50 have hit the under more than 60% of the time this year. So this is a game environment I don't like for a lot of points. And you're above 50 points, which statistically has been terrible for hitting the over all year long. I like the under there. So if you're the type of over-under type better, I really like the under in that Titans-Colts game. Just game flow-wise, game environment-wise, I really like the under in that one. And the last team that I'm really looking at, and this was another one that was almost in the 3-team tease, getting the 6 points. I kind of like Pittsburgh against Cleveland. Pittsburgh getting 3.5, plus 3.5 against Cleveland. Cleveland's injury report was a fucking shit show today. It was laughable. Just an absolute laundry. It was a CVS receipt full of different injuries of did not practice, limited practice, did not practice for Cleveland today. Baker's still nursing a sore shoulder, okay? Jarvis Landry is still questionable. You got Odell still sidelined. Nick Chubb is still dealing with his calf. Myles Garrett's still dealing with. There's a litany of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. So Cleveland is banged up. They are banged up bad. That now they could very well come back. A full healthy Cleveland team I like over Pittsburgh all day, but pending the final injury reports as we get closer to Sunday, pending those final injury reports, Pittsburgh getting 3.5, you can fully expect that line to move. So I do like Pittsburgh. They're coming off a bye, okay? Najee Harris has looked like a total stud. I know Ben's a statue in the pocket this year, but that offense, there are weapons there, man. Chase Claypool reportedly is feeling better. You still got Juju there. You have some big play threats in Deontay and even James Washington. Najee has looked absolutely great. He's doing it all. He looks like Le'Veon Bell early on in his career, just absolutely doing everything and anything. So Pittsburgh getting 3.5 in a division game that that they're going to really, really get themselves up for. I'm sure Mike Tomlin has really tried to get this team ramped up. That's a scary game. That's a scary game to bet on Cleveland on, especially with all those injuries. So just keep it in the back. If you got a little extra scratch, you want to get a little spicy. Pittsburgh plus 3.5 is probably the only other line that was of interest this week. Everything else, man. A lot of tough games, a lot of pick'em games, a lot of games that could go either way, a lot of trap game. The Detroit game this week, absolute trap game. Stay away from Detroit. But yeah, that Pittsburgh game is probably the last thing that I would even consider betting on this week. I loved the Cardinals tonight. What's up, Mitch? You got a score on the Cardinals game at all?
I can get one for you in just a sec.
Pull that up really quick because I it sucks I can never use the Thursday night football games to kind of roll in because I really, really liked. I would have put Arizona in the tees tonight. They were 6.5. They were given 6.5, so it basically would have been even. Basically, would have been a money line bet. You got a score on there, Mitch?
Yep, it's tied at 7 at the beginning of the second quarter here.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Regardless, guys. 3-team teaser of the week: Cincinnati, Tampa Bay, and LA with the 6-point teaser. Lock it in. Pays plus 160. I'll be dropping my bet slip in tomorrow on that. So that is going to be it for Better Come Correct. Mitch, what else we got? We going to move a little buy or sell?
Yep, let's kick it over. All right. So, firstly, let's start off. What's the hot NFL card buy today? What can I go out? What am I looking to steal value-wise, or what's the hot commodity right now?
So, for me right now, what I'm looking at 2020 Optic Joe Burrow. All right, and I know you're going to pay a little bit for it. You're still going to pay less than Prism. But what I love about this card, it's a 2020 Optic Hollow Joe Burrow PSA 10. Okay, in the last 30 days since the start of the season, it's gone up over 52%. Okay, you could have bought it at the beginning of the year for about $450, $460. Last sale, it went just north of $700. Okay, so you're seeing a steady rise. Joe Burrow is absolutely showing that he's the real deal, picking up right where he left off before he got hurt last year. The thing I like the most about this, and I did not realize this, okay, because any of the collectors that are watching right now, okay, Optic had a lot of retail product last year. So did Select for football. Now, what I didn't realize is that I thought the pop would have been through the roof on this card when I was looking through them. Pop Report has only 186 PSA 10s. 186. That is very low for a flagship brand like Optic. So a Joe Burrow Optic Hollow PSA 10, 186 pop. And you can get it for under $1,000. If you're serious about investing in some cards, making, somewhat of a big investment to kind of hold, that's a good buy. That's a good buy. PSA 10 with a pop of $186 for under $1,000. Obviously, everyone's got their different budgets, but relatively speaking, it's up 52%. I think if you bought in the off season, you are really loving where you're at. That was obviously the window to buy. I still think there's a window where that can cross the $1,000 threshold. They are on pace to win the AFC North. They could be, if they win a playoff game, you're flirting with a $1,500 card all day long. All day long. If Cincy goes to the playoffs and Joe Burrow wins them a playoff game, especially with how electric Jamar Chase has been, you still got T. Higgins there. Mixon, when he's healthy, provides a robust running game. That's the card. That's the football card I'm looking at right now. Herbert's stuff has already kind of plateaued. It's hit a little bit of a ceiling where he's got to do a little bit more. But Burrow's stuff, we talked about it a few episodes ago, 2-3 episodes ago. His stuff was a little bit behind because people were a little bit hesitant buying in, seeing how he came off the injury. Right now, we are literally in the thick of the Joe Burrow ascent to the Herbert area of where that elite rookie quarterback should be at. So that's it. 2020 Optic Joe Burrow Hollow PSA 10.
And if I want to, basketball season started up recently. If I want to build up my basketball collection, what am I looking at there?
So the one I like really, really, really big right now is actually the 2017 Panini Prism, Donovan Mitchell. Okay, I think Donovan Mitchell is undervalued for the type of player that he is. I know obviously playing in Utah, you don't get a lot of love, but they're going to be in the mix in the West. I think he is a very, very talented player. And if you look at his prices compared to, Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo, out of that draft class, he's significantly cheaper. Prism flagship card, okay, for 2017, PSA, a silver PSA 10, pop of 547. Now that may sound high, okay? But you got to think Prism is the flagship brand, okay? 547. Comparatively speaking, the following year in 2017 was the last year that they really, short printed silvers. So that number is not going to rise up too much further than that. 547. I would be stunned if that number ever came even close to having 1,000. To put it into perspective, Luka Doncic out of 2018, this is not a knock on Luka. I fucking love Luka. But to put the ratio of what the print run was into perspective, Luka Doncic's 2018 Silver Prism PSA 10s have a pop of over 2,000. 2,000. And it came out a year after this one. So I think it could be a combination of people just don't have as much love for, Donovan Mitchell as they do for Luka, which, completely fair. I do think Luka is the better long-term prospect and long-term play. But from a strict supply and demand pop report perspective, the pop report at 547 for a silver PSA 10 versus a lot of those 2018 and beyond. Like, after 2018, forget about it. 2018 was when they really started to pump these bad boys out. After that, forget about it. To have a pop under 1,000 of a star rookie from a given class at a PSA 10, that's a buy for me.
Staying on basketball, we've got James Harden being real vocal about the lack of calls coming in from the refs lately. What do you think? Are they letting too much go? What's going on?
I'm selling that totally. I'm selling that completely. I love that they're not calling a lot of these bitch fouls. Like you saw Harden pouting all over the court last night, the night before. I like that the officiating has been a lot. They're letting the boys play. Like, I hate watching a basketball game and every 12 seconds is a whistle just interrupting the flow of play. I hate that. I absolutely hate that. And I get it. Playing devil's advocate, I get that Harden has, taken it upon himself to sort of master the craft of, drawing contact and working himself into contact to get himself to the line. But, dude, like, that's not why I'm turning on the game. I'm not turning on the game to watch guys strategically draw fouls. Fuck that, dude. Like, that's terrible. That's not fun. That's not fun for a basketball fan. It's not fun. It's not good. I'm selling the complaints. I like that they're calling the games a little looser. Let the guys play. Sometimes incidental contact happens. And like, I don't want the offensive player engaging the defensive player, whoever's guarding, to bring that if they're engaging with the defensive player to try and draw that contact and draw a foul, fuck you. No, don't put him in the line. I like it. I'm selling the bullshit on James Harden.
Feeling very strongly about that one.
I am on that one, man.
All right. So what do you think about Javi Hernandez as the next manager for Barcelona?
So I don't think it's official yet, but I think I'm absolutely buying that. That's the right move. Ronald Koeman had to go. Given the shambles that Barca is in right now financially and on the pitch, just another bad loss this week. Koeman had to go. Obviously, that was a no-brainer. I think bringing someone in like Hernandez, who just knows that Barca culture, can cultivate the guys like Pedri, like Javi, work with Depay, and like just really kind of bring back that that Barcelona play style and that influence. He's a respected player in the world of international football. I think he would be a phenomenal fit for them to bring him in and sort of start to right that ship and get it going back in the right direction. There's talent there. Barca's still got talented players on that team, but the Ronald Koeman era just had to end for sure. So I'm buying that.
All right. What do you think about Ja Morant's junior year here? He's starting off pretty well. He's at a 55% shooting percentage, 45% three-point average. He's looking pretty solid. What do you think about this year?
Yeah, I'm buying Ja. I was buying Ja last year. Ja, he's averaging almost a point per minute on the floor right now. Like you said, 55% field goal percentage right now from the floor, 45% from three, 8.5 helpers per game. He just looks so good, man. He is absolutely abusing defenders, putting people on posters at the rim. For a guard, that is not something you see, but I love it. I love his game. I really like that Memphis team. The makeup of that team caters really well for Ja. I really hope Jaren Jackson stays healthy and really develops. That team with a bona fide big man like Triple J, healthy and learning more and playing off Ja, working in the pick and roll game. That's a very fun team to watch out for in the West with a lot of fun players to watch as well. I'm buying Ja's leap, and I hope Memphis is a contender come the playoffs.
That's all we got for this. We can kick it over to a little 2-minute drill if you'd like.
Let's wrap it up, baby. Let's finish on time so I can go pop on that Packers game. I had a DraftKings lineup I got to follow.
Sounds good. Let's kick it over. All right. So, what do you think about Jamar Chase winning Rookie of the Year?
Got it. It has to. He's far and away the best rookie on the field right now. Not to discredit anything Jamar is doing, but I think a good amount of kudos has to go to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is throwing absolute darts to this kid right now. But yeah, absolutely. Jamar Chase is the Rookie of the Year right now. Absolutely.
Alrighty. Who do you got with Atlanta versus LA in the World Series?
Honestly, Houston. Atlanta, Houston.
Atlanta,
Yeah, it's Houston. Is it typo?
It says LA.
It's a typo.
It says LA.
No,
I don't watch baseball. You know that. That shit's organized murdering.
Regardless. Fuck Houston. I got Atlanta.
Alrighty. Well, fuck Houston. Is Golden State the biggest threat to the NBA this season?
100% yes. Chef Steph is back. Klay Thompson's going to be back. I love this Warriors team. I absolutely love the energy on that team. I love Steph's just emotion on the floor. He is absolutely cooking, and I cannot wait to see the other Splash brother, Klay Thompson, come back. Very excited. I've said it plenty of times. Steph Curry is my favorite non-Celtic in the NBA. Cannot wait to see Klay come back. Warriors are going to be a problem, man. They're going to be an absolute problem. But
that's all I got.
That's it.
Good one.
That's going to be it, guys. That's going to be it for episode number 15 of Two Way Takes. We hope you guys enjoyed. We will see you next week. And make sure to check us out on Instagram and Facebook. We've been posting plenty more content on there. We will post the 3-team tease of the week for you guys who may have missed the episode to go check it out on Instagram. You can follow us to stay up to date on all the happenings there, along with some special giveaways that we're going to have coming up pretty soon. So for myself and producer Mitch, we thank you guys for hopping on tonight, checking out the live stream. We'll see you next week on Two Way Takes.